Have you ever felt drawn to someone, even when they clearly aren't choosing you?
It's like your heart is tugged in one direction while your mind screams in another.
And no matter how hard you try to let go, it feels impossible to stop caring.
Maybe the reason we chase isn't about them at all, but about what we're missing in ourselves.
I don't understand why it hurts so much when someone just doesn't choose me.
Because it hits deeper than rejection. It triggers a part of us that questions our value.
So it's not really about them.
That's the pattern. Our brain clings to hope, even when logic screams to walk away.
When we chase people who don't choose us, it's rarely about them alone. Our need for approval, our patterns of attachment, and the wounds of rejection intertwine in ways that feel overwhelming but are profoundly human. Consider the different attachment styles humans develop. Those with anxious attachment, for instance, crave closeness and approval, often fearing abandonment. This can make someone obsessively pursue someone unavailable because the very act of chasing creates the illusion of connection. When that person shows a glimmer of attention, no matter how fleeting, it triggers a surge of reward chemicals in the brain, reinforcing the behavior. Yet, the absence or withdrawal of that attention activates a deep-seated fear of being unworthy, creating a cycle of longing and despair. Self-worth becomes entangled with someone else's choices, which is a fragile and perilous foundation. Chasing someone can momentarily soothe feelings of inadequacy, but it also leaves us more exposed to disappointment. Many of us don't recognize the pattern until years later, noticing that our hearts consistently gravitate toward those who are emotionally unavailable. It's not an accident, nor is it a reflection of our inadequacy. It's often a mirror of unresolved fears and unmet needs from early life experiences. Understanding this doesn't make it less painful, but it can help us respond with compassion toward ourselves instead of blame. The first step toward breaking the cycle is awareness. The recognition that the chase is less about the other person and more about the wounds and patterns we carry. When we see it this way, we begin to reclaim the power that was unconsciously surrendered. We learn that our desire for someone who doesn't choose us is not a flaw but a signal, a call to nurture the parts of ourselves that have been seeking validation externally. This journey isn't quick, nor is it linear, but it opens the door to healthier relationships, both with others and with ourselves.
Rejection is never just a simple no. It resonates with primal parts of the brain that remember survival depended on being accepted by the group. When someone rejects us, especially someone we desire, it can feel like a threat to our very existence. That's why chasing sometimes feels uncontrollable. The mind and body interpret absence as danger, even when intellectually we know it's safe. In addition, the modern social environment magnifies this pain through social media, texts, and intermittent signals that create a variable reward system. Just a single like or message can trigger hope, making us double down on the pursuit. Our nervous system becomes addicted to the push and pull, creating patterns that are difficult to break. Often, those who are pursued may appear indifferent, unaware of the unconscious impact they wield. It's not about malice, it's about human psychology. Yet the impact is real. Stress, anxiety, insomnia, and lowered self-esteem are all common outcomes. Understanding these physiological responses can help people stop blaming themselves or the other person. Healing requires self-reflection and the development of internal validation systems. Meditation, therapy, journaling, and setting healthy boundaries become crucial tools. By nurturing self-worth internally rather than externally, we gradually retrain our emotional responses. We learn to feel complete without needing external approval, which diminishes the urgency to chase. In doing so, the emotional energy previously spent pursuing someone unavailable transforms into personal growth, self-love, and the ability to create relationships that are reciprocal and fulfilling.
Sometimes we ignore these patterns because confronting them is uncomfortable. We want quick solutions, a magic formula to make someone care. But the truth is, growth is slow and introspective. We need to look at why a particular person triggers our desire to chase. Is it their perceived perfection? Their inaccessibility? Or is it something inside ourselves we hope they will fill? The chase often disguises an unmet need for emotional safety, validation, or love that we expect to find externally. This doesn't make us weak or broken, it makes us human. What we can do is start noticing triggers, setting boundaries, and asking ourselves questions that lead to insight. What emotions arise when they are distant? What beliefs about ourselves are activated? How does our history shape these feelings? By reflecting honestly, we separate who we are from who we want to pursue. This empowers us to make conscious choices rather than acting from habitual compulsion. Over time, the repeated patterns lose their grip, not because desire disappears, but because awareness replaces unconscious longing. We learn that the energy we once directed outward can nourish ourselves and our real connections, cultivating relationships where choice, respect, and mutual desire are present. Liberation from the chase is not about detachment or coldness. It's about conscious alignment with our value and emotional needs.
It is important to understand that chasing someone often reflects an internal scarcity mindset. We believe if we are not chosen, we are incomplete or flawed. This belief drives persistence, obsession, and sometimes even manipulation, because our brain interprets being chosen as survival and happiness. Yet, paradoxically, the act of chasing rarely produces genuine connection. It produces anxiety, attachment, pain, and sometimes resentment. When we shift our perspective, we realize that being chosen should be mutual, and our energy is best spent on those who reflect the same desire. This is not about pride or ego. It's about respecting our own emotional investment. People with anxious tendencies often confuse persistence with love, not realizing that healthy love includes freedom, reciprocity, and emotional availability. We can cultivate self-worth by practicing self-compassion, acknowledging our intrinsic value, and creating emotional boundaries. These practices help us redirect energy from unreciprocated attachment to relationships that nourish rather than drain. Understanding attachment patterns, rejection, sensitivity, and the brain's reward system empowers us to break cycles that have persisted for years. When we integrate these insights, we stop chasing. Not because desire ceases, but because we no longer tie our worth to someone else's choices. Freedom comes when our emotional fulfillment is internally sourced, allowing love to flow naturally rather than as a desperate pursuit.
Healing from the urge to chase requires patience, courage, and self-compassion. It means embracing solitude without shame, tolerating emotional discomfort without distraction, and cultivating a deep connection with our own values. Journaling about patterns, reflecting on past relationships, and recognizing the emotional triggers that prompt the chase are critical tools. Therapy can help identify childhood experiences that feed anxious attachment and low self-worth, providing strategies to reframe beliefs and behaviors. We also benefit from building a community that validates our worth independent of romantic attention. Friendships, creative pursuits, and personal growth can fill the space that we once expected others to occupy. Gradually, the compulsive drive to chase diminishes as internal validation strengthens. We learn that desire is natural, but the need to be chosen at the expense of self-respect is optional. Liberation is not immediate, but each step toward conscious awareness, emotional autonomy, and self-love reinforces the understanding that we are whole, chosen, and complete before anyone else decides our value. This realization transforms longing into empowerment, desperation into clarity, and chasing into conscious connection.
Ultimately, the chase is a reflection of unhealed wounds, seeking external confirmation. Awareness, self-reflection, and consistent practice of emotional independence are transformative. When we stop seeking external approval as a measure of our value, the compulsion to chase disappears. This doesn't mean we no longer desire others. It means desire is free of fear and scarcity. Healthy relationships emerge when both parties choose each other freely, not out of obligation, manipulation, or unresolved neediness. Emotional maturity allows us to recognize when someone's choice aligns with our value and when it doesn't. By understanding our attachment patterns, practicing self-validation, and respecting emotional boundaries, we create space for authentic connection. In time, the heart no longer clings to those unavailable because the soul has found wholeness within. We approach relationships from a place of choice, not desperation, cultivating bonds rooted in mutual respect, reciprocity, and genuine affection. The energy once wasted chasing someone who didn't choose us is now invested in our growth, joy, and the relationships that truly matter.
We've seen that chasing someone who doesn't choose us is rarely about them. It's about patterns, attachment, and unmet needs. It's about understanding why the mind clings to hope and why the heart struggles to let go, even when logic says otherwise. Recognizing these patterns is the first step toward breaking the cycle of unreciprocated desire. When we understand attachment styles, rejection triggers, and the ways self-worth gets entangled with other people's choices, we can respond instead of reacting. Chasing someone often creates temporary relief but long-term stress, anxiety, and self-doubt. Sebastian. Awareness allows energy to shift from external validation to internal growth and emotional resilience.
It's important to notice the triggers that make us pursue those unavailable and reflect on the beliefs driving the behavior. Boundaries, self-compassion, and conscious decision-making are tools that help break patterns of chasing. Emotional independence doesn't eliminate desire, but it transforms it into choice, clarity, and healthy relationships. When desire is balanced with self-worth, we naturally attract people who choose us freely and reciprocate our care. Healing from the urge to chase requires patience and acceptance. It's a gradual process of learning to value oneself first. And over time, unreciprocated attachment loses its grip, replaced by freedom, understanding, and emotional maturity.
The lessons of chasing teach awareness, self-reflection, and the importance of cultivating relationships based on mutual respect. Ultimately, the key takeaway is that worth is intrinsic, not dependent on another person's choices, attention, or approval.
Energy invested in unreciprocated pursuit can instead be redirected toward growth, self-love, and connections that truly nurture. True freedom comes when desire is conscious and self-worth is secured internally, allowing healthy love to flow naturally.
Chasing doesn't define love. Understanding, choice, and mutual respect do. Sebastian, and that is the ultimate insight from exploring why people chase those who don't choose them.